Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Hoagland and welcome back to another Draft Today video. We are drafting 665 again here today, and we have a pretty interesting pack here for our first one. We have Eternal Bastion here as the rare, which says the start of your turn, your charge powers get -2 cost to use. And this does stack, so that means the first time you ready with this, your power is 2 less. The second time you're ready with it, it is 4 less. Just like super, super powerful. Pretty sure Bastion's just the pick, right? Just like gonna pass this Mystic Naturalist that is a total bomb. There's a Chastise in this pack that's also good removal. There's a Bounder in this pack that's also reasonable. But I think the Bastion is the pickup just because it's such a powerful effect, and it can go into a lot of different decks. Mystic Naturalist kind of pigeonholes us, and taking Naturalist out of this pack is actually a little bit medium because we're passing two pretty reasonable Sapphire cards. So I think just snaking the Eternal Bastion is the right play here. It keeps us open to whatever shards we might want to be from our second pack. And as we look at our second pack here, there's nothing too super exciting in this pack, right? Like, of all the uncommons that are here, someone took the rare out of this pack as well. The Mindrak Sorcerer is like the closest to reasonable, and I'm not really sure that this is a good reason to be in Blood. Eager Lackey here is a pretty sweet card. It's a 1/1 for one that when it deploys, it conscripts an Underworld troop. I might just stake this Eager Lackey, honestly. There's a lot of good blood cards in this pack regardless, and this is the only really playable wild card in this pack, so taking this kind of sends the message to the people that we're passing to that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be in wild. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass the Eager Lackey. I wouldn't fault anyone for taking the Cheap Shot or the Mindrak Sorcerer out of this pack, but I think Eager Lackey is the objectively most powerful card in here. Go ahead and go with that. See if we continue getting past wild or if it's being cut from people before us. So there's only a rare taken out of that pack, so kind of hard to say exactly what people are going in. Remember, you don't want to try and force a particular trade base. You kind of want to try and get a feel for what is actually open and what isn't. Wow. Feeling some regret as we've passed a Mystic Naturalist, and now we've got a second one here in front of us. I'm just 10 out of 10 going to pick this up. It's objectively the most powerful card in this pack, and pretty happy to play that most of the time. We have Eternal Bastion, which is almost certainly going to win us some games, but man, the feels when you could have had a double Mystic Naturalist draft. Should have stayed true to the course, right, and just like never passed the Mystic Naturalist. Card's so powerful, just a 2/4 flight for 4 that every time it diligences, so when it readies, it summons a Mystic Bluebird that is a 2/2 with flight. Just a total bomb in every part of this limited format, basically. Very powerful card. Must answer for anyone. There's no way that other one's going to come back around, but happy to have this one here. There's a Shackling Strands in that last pack, too. Reasonable Sapphire cards keep coming around here. Windborne Ascension is very reasonable. Conscript and Underworld Troop of cost 3. The created card gets flight. I'm going to go ahead and pick this up. We also are already into 2 Conscript cards here. So that means if we see like a Draka come around, we wouldn't feel too bad picking that up. Usually Drakas go a little bit late because they're weak without the conscript payoffs, and we already have 2 of those. We're by no means committed to wild at this point, but probably would like to play Sapphire with these first two pretty reasonable Sapphire picks. One thing that we want to think about is that Eternal Bastion really shines with like the 5-charge champions like Sejas and Renner and Ada, so none of those are in either of these 2 thresholds that we're in if we go wild Sapphire. I suppose this card's not too bad with the draw discard champion, the Sapphire champion, but as we look at this pack, cards that stand out to me as being particularly playable, I don't hate Memory of the Fallen in general. It's a 2/2 flight for 4 that he gets +1/+1 for each different Ardent race you control. Shadow Slicer is a very reasonable blood card. 3/3 that if you could scrounge 3 consistently kills an opposing troop, basically. I'm going to go ahead and snag this Cerulean Sage here, though. It's the best Sapphire card in the pack, so it continues to leave the message to the folks that we're passing to that, hey, maybe you shouldn't be in Sapphire. We've already passed some good Sapphire cards, but hopefully if we were able to cut a pack or two, we'll get some good Sapphire on the way back around in the second pack. I should have known. Just like never pass the pack one, pick one Mystic Naturalist, ladies and gentlemen, unless you're getting like a Bride of the Damned to pay for your draft. This pack is kind of weak. This Shadowbound Vicar's okay, but it's kind of like speculative to pick up, and it's tough to make it work in a lot of decks. You have to get a lot of socketed things going on. I actually think the pick out of this pack is the Arena Regular. The Sapphire Ruby Charges Matters deck is pretty reasonable. We already have 2 Ardent Troops for it, and this would be a third if we wanted to play Sapphire Ruby Marzul. Arena Regular and Rockslider are the 2 better Charges payoffs. I don't think Rift Spasm is actually that good the more that I've drafted this format, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and see how it goes from there. Again, not committed to either of these thresholds just yet. As we open this pack, we get 2 kind of reasonable Ruby cards. We've got an Explosive Interlude, which does 5 damage to something and creates a Valor if you've Ardent Allegiance. And we have a 6-cost, 4/4 speed with Mobilize. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the Explosive Interlude here, actually. The Blitzer will likely come back around to us, and the Explosive Interlude is definitely a piece of removal, so if we end up in Ruby, we want a couple pieces of that. Out of this pack, there's a Charkmart. Huh. Man, if we end up in the Charges Matters deck, this card could be really good. I'm going to grab the Charkmart speculatively here. Galleon Duelist is like close to playable, but the Charkmart could be really obnoxious. We haven't seen any Rock Sliders yet in this pack, but we could end up getting Rock Sliders in the next pack, right? I feel like it is not completely unreasonable to grab the Charkmart in case we end up being in the Charges Matters deck after the second pack. There wasn't anything too particularly playable in that matchup, in that pack, so I don't mind grabbing a speculative pick. We have Feed the Flames here that wield, which is probably a good sign for us. It means that no one else is likely in Ruby. And also, if you look at this pack, there's a Mystic Naturalist and a couple other good Sapphire cards in this pack, the Cloudbounder too, and all of those are gone. So we definitely 10 out of 10 want to go ahead and grab the Feed the Flames here, I think. None of the cards in this pack are particularly impressive. I don't think we're a Dread Deployment deck at this point, so I think Telecompass is the closest thing to a playable. Maybe Amphibious Arachnid. I guess I'll cut the 2/4 for now, but none of those cards are particularly exciting. Again, nothing super exciting here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab the Ruby's Favor on the off chance we want to play it as a combat trick. Zap it's playable in the main deck of the Charges deck as a one of. At like 8 playables now, that's not too bad. None of these cards super exciting. Deadeye Invoker is something that we would play if we're really short on playables if we end up in Ruby. Nothing in here super exciting. I guess we'll grab a Scraptooth Gnasher on the off chance we get a bunch of Gnashers and Brute Crown Bashers in the third pack. Brute Crown Basher is actually pretty good. It's a Brute Crown Basher is a 2/1 that says whenever you play another Basher or Gnasher, it deals 2 damage to something. So if you get like a bunch of them in your deck, you can actually just like shoot stuff down pretty quickly. Let's see what we get in this next pack here. Alright, as we look around here, this pack's actually pretty weak for Sapphire and Ruby. There's a Thunderbolt Warden here, which we're almost certainly not in this at this point. There's another Explosive Interlude. I actually don't hate just snagging the Blitz here. Target troop control gets +4/+2 this turn. Doesn't really feel first pickable, but there's nothing else I'm super excited in this pack. Nothing in this pack really makes me feel compelled to move into a different shard than we're already in and give up the playables we have. Like, Butcher and Cheap Shot are playable removal, but I don't think they're worth pivoting off of Ruby or Sapphire based on the cards we already have. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this Blitz for now, and then we'll see how the rest of this pack goes for what we're doing exactly here. Okay, there's a Rock Slider. That's one of the better Charges Batter payoff cards. I think I'm just going to prioritize picking these up. The Cerulean Sage is pretty reasonable, but I think the Rock Slider is actually the card I want at this point. And then we can play this Chark Mart and just have ourselves a good old time. Got two charges payoffs here, so we're going to prioritize sliders and arena regulars pretty high here, I think. In this pack, we've got a Cerulean Sage here, a Boisterous Ballad, and a Cloudbounder here. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up this Cloudbounder. It's a good Diligence enabler for like this Cerulean Sage we have here, and hopefully this Sage ends up coming around and wheeling for us. It can also enable Diligence for like the Mystic Naturalist here, and it's just like a quality threat that's also ardent for us. Wow, another Cloudbounder, and there's an Underworld Officer in this pack. It's really sad that we're nowhere close to being able to play this card. This is just like a super bomb, just like 2/2 unblockable. It attacks, it gets +1 power for each Underworld troop you control, and it, excuse me, it counts itself. So basically it is a 3-power unblockable attacker. That being said, Cloudbounder is a plenty fine constellation prize. We're going to want to prioritize picking up 1s and 2s at this point. Our curve's a little bit high, and we want things to enable these Cloudbounders, but feeling pretty good. Would love it if we could see 1 or 2 more arena regulars in this pack. Still no on-shard 1s or 2s in here. I don't think Conceal is particularly playable. I don't know that we're in the market for another Explosive Interlude, but I'm going to go ahead and pick it up just because, like, it's on shard removal. We're a little bit light on. So this pack, we kind of get our wish here. We got an Ashwood Minstrel, which is a 1/3 for 2 that's also Ardent, so it's going to be able to enable Marzul's Power Force and return Ardent Troop gain a charge. There's a 1-shot, gain an extra resource. So this can actually ramp us into the Chark Mart in the 3rd turn, which is kind of sweet. So 10 out of 10, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Ashwood Minstrel here. In this pack, there's another Zap here, but there's also a Tale of Insight. That's probably not particularly good in our aggressive deck, but I don't know that I'm in the market for another Zap. I'm going to pick up the Tale of Insight, just in case we want this card. This might be something we board in against, like, an Ada deck. Doesn't seem completely unreasonable. starting to go okay. I think we need like, we're gonna need to really prioritize 1 and 2 drops here for the rest of this draft. Ideally, we probably want 2, 3 more at least. Another Blitz here. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get another Rock Slider, so like, we don't have a ton of things that are gonna pay us off for our charges, but Blitz is a pretty powerful combat trick in general. Target troop gets +4, +2 until end of turn, and it costs 3, so you could mobilize it down to just 1. Here's our original pack here, and the Grulk Wield. Like I said, this pack was pretty weak overall. Not much has changed. I guess I'll take this Cheap Shot, because it's like the best card in the pack. I don't think we're going to play this Grulk in our aggressive deck, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just grab this Cheap Shot, I suppose. Honestly, we might end up playing this Eldritch Shriek if we end up light on 1s and 2s, but hopefully we're going to see more of those come around here. It would be super sweet if that's Cerulean Sage we saw in that 1-pack Wield, but that card's pretty good, and I'd assume the person that picked up the Cloudbounders before is going to go ahead and snake that out of there. Yeah, Shroud's kind of playable. Ready target troop you control, it gets Spell Shield till end of turn, so yeah, it's fine. It's really cute with Mystic Naturalist, because like, they'll attack in, and you're like, alright, Shroud my Mystic Naturalist, like, make another blocker, like, be able to block 2 of your things as a surprise. Does not seem completely unreasonable. Orbiculon, I think we are in the market for this card. We are short on playable 1s and 2s, and this card is not particularly impressive as a 1/1 for 2. It diligences into a 4-power attacker, and we are definitely looking for some stuff to mobilize these Cloudbounders. Almost certainly not playing Dingle, but I guess we'll draft it. Yeah, I'm gonna take the playable combat trick out of here. We're at 17 playables already. Playables. Hopefully we'll hit something useful, some good cards in this 3rd pack. Again, I'm just gonna take the boon. This card's annoying to have to play around. It's like a 2/1 for 1 that gives a troop life drain as well. Get those out of someone else's deck. Another Eldritch Shriek. Okay. So the Shrieks are like the Scraptooth Gnashers in that they have an effect on other things. So Shrieks make other Shrieks, and Whispers cost -2. So if you have 2 Shrieks in your hand, you can play them both out for just 2 resources. And the Whispers are a 5-cost 4/4 that says draw a card, and then if you don't have a Whisper or a Shriek in play, you have to discard a card as well. So like worst case, it's a 5-cost that 4/4 that loots. And best case, it's a 5-cost 4/4 that just draws a card. So we'll see how this 3rd pack goes. If we can pick up a couple of Whispers, we might just play 2 Shrieks, 2 Whispers. This pack's not super exciting. The only good Ruby card in here is Ashwood Transmuter, and I actually really like this card. It's a 3/2 for 3, and it's Ardent, which we like for Marzul, and you can discard a card to create a random Ruby common from your hand. Which is just super, super powerful. You just get to like filter out things in the mid to late game. There's a Mirror in here, which has a powerful effect as well. Summon a copy of up to 2 target cards, but I really feel like for curve purposes, we just like need this Ashwood Transmuter. The Mirror, there's no way that's going to wheel back around to us, which is a little bit sad, but I think this is still the pickup. In this pack, we get rewarded for being in these shards by being a Lava Shaper, and I'm going to go ahead and 10 out of 10 pick that up. The Wallbuster and the Iotachi Brute could be pretty reasonable. I hope this Brute wheels back around to us, but Lava Shaper, Ardent Allegiance deploy, deals 3 damage to target opposing troop is fantastic. Also, a Twilight Reverent and Guppy Gloves in here that are both fairly reasonable. So, 10 out of 10, gonna grab the Ardent Lava Shaper though. And immediately get past another pack that's stacked with cards we want. Ruthless Intimidator is a 3/1 for 2 that can Call of the Ardent to make a Valor when it comes into play, or Crush the Underworld to make an Underworld troop not block this turn. I like Ashwood Transmuter more as a card than Ruthless Intimidator, but for the sake of our curve, I think the Intimidator is the better card in this deck. We would really like enough 1s and 2s to like not feel the need to play this Orbiculon, so ideally that's going to happen for us. One thing I've talked about before when I'm drafting 665 is that the payoff cards for being in Ruby in this set are mostly in set 5, so that means when you're drafting a Ruby deck in this format, your deck's really not going to come together a lot of the time until your third pack comes around, because that's where the payoffs are. As we look here, there's nothing super exciting in this pack for us. We're not playing an Upgrade Technician in this deck. We're likely not playing a Change Course. I guess I could play a Halt here in the reserves in case we come across someone that has a lot of combat tricks in their deck. Doesn't seem completely unreasonable. And here again, we talk about, you know, your payoffs being in this third pack. Blazing Hammer, it's a fantastic piece of removal, and it's reach 4 damage target champion or troop. And this card made it through 4 cards been picked out of this pack, so half the table chose not to pick anything out of here. Hopefully, the Battlefield Ironsmith, or even just the Fierce Justicar, which is basically a 3/2 Swift Strike Unlimited since people aren't playing non-standard resources here, but either of those cards we'd be happy to see come back around to us. Wow, we got a Cremate and a Blazing Hammer. Huh. Blazing Hammer is just like really premium removal. It kills a lot of the stuff you care about, and 4 is a lot of reach. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up another one of those. I would love it if this Cremate came back around, but I definitely think... There's a Freebooter in this pack too, though? Good lord. If the Cremate or the Freebooter come back around on this pack, would be super excited, but I definitely think Blazing Hammer is objectively the most powerful card in that pack for the archetype that we're playing. It might even just be the most powerful card in general in that pack, so I am definitely going to go ahead and pick that up for ourselves. In this pack, we got a Battlefield Ironsmith here, which is pretty reasonable. It's really good with Cerulean Sage, actually, because this gives another Ardent Troop you control +3 power permanently, so like being able to put that on your Cerulean Sage is like beating them down is pretty good. So the Astral Sight came back around out of this pack. I don't know that we're in the market to play this. We were like ended up a little bit short on Charges Matters cards, and like the triple Sapphire is a little bit prohibitive. I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up because there's definitely other people at Sapphire in this draft that may or may not be interested in this card, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up not playing the Astral Sight. Second Astral Sight. Oh, wait. I miscounted. This is the original Astral Sight, huh? Alright, sure. Why not? I'll pick those up. Maybe we'll work into. Maybe it's worth contorting the resource base a little bit if we can get double Astral Sight going on. How many threats do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so in this pack, there's nothing really worth playing here. The Guppy Gloves is probably the pickup for a matchup where we feel like we need a little bit more removal, but I don't think that card's worth starting in our main deck. I wonder if the Astral Sight's better than this Sharkbart. That's probably true. Well, the Sharkbart's a little bit easier to cast, because we're definitely in the market for double Ruby with all these Blazing Hammers and such. probably just not playing either of these. And I think we're almost just about down to the deck that we're going to end up playing here. Honestly, the Sharkmores might not be worth it either. They're not really ramping up into anything. I think the Rocket Rider's fine. It's a 2-3 flight speed, scrounge 2, gains rage 2, so it's like an evasive threat at the top of our curve, essentially. We only ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2-drops, which is probably 1 to 2 light for what I want, but you know, is what it is. Hey, the Battlefield Ironsmith wheeled back around to us. That's nice. I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up. I feel like I want to cut the zap here. Cerulean Lookout is actually fantastic. It's another Ardent 2-drop for us that actually curves really well with Battlefield Ironsmith, right? We get to like play this 1-4 on 2, and then curve into a Battlefield Ironsmith to make it a 4-4 on 3. This doesn't seem completely unreasonable. Eternal Bastion ended up being a lot worse than Mystic Naturalist would have been in this deck, but it is what it is. This is still just like a 4-6 for 5 that is a reasonable body that dodges a lot of the removal in the format and can eventually make our Marzul activation free. That being said, you know, Marzul is not the ideal champion for this card, but it's still just like a must-answer bomb, so definitely worth playing, but not as exciting as it would be if we ended up in an Ada or a Renner deck. There are no sockets in here, right? Nope. So we're just going to end up on 9 Ruby and 8 Sapphire here for our resource base, and then I think we're going to go ahead and call it an afternoon. Thanks everyone for watching today's Draft Today video. Remember, if you liked today's video, if you enjoyed today's video, to like it on YouTube and share it on your social media. You know, support my content in a couple different ways, such as subscribing to my channel here. That doesn't cost you anything. If you want to support my content directly, you can do a couple different ways to do that as well. You can subscribe on Twitch, which does cost $4.99 a month, or become a patron on Patreon for varying amounts. There's information on how to do that and the rewards you get for doing those things below this video. You can also support my content by supporting my sponsors, which is hexprimal.com. They would love to sell you some Hex TCG singles. You can check out their website, hexprimal.com. Use the code Jeff5 there. You'll get 5% off of your order, and you'll also help support my content here. Today is the last day in this draft week, so be sure to head over to my blog at jeffhoagland.com and put your guesses in for which draft decks finished with which records this week to have a chance to win a free draft set so you can do some drafting yourself here on Hex. I'll be back tomorrow with another Draft a Day.